Just imagine for a second that you'll die at the end of the year if you don't hit your goals. What would you do? For me personally, I know I would go all out. It's like when you're playing a game and you're about to die. You know you can't run away from the enemy, so you fight. You lock in. You utilize every resource at your disposal to win. In games, you're pushed to the limit of your capabilities because it feels like if you fail, then you'll die. So why not do the same for your goals? Personally, that's exactly what I'm doing this year. For the next 365 days, I'm following a simple system to make sure I actually take action towards changing my life. At the end of the video, I'll show you that same system that could make this your most productive year yet. And all it requires is one simple habit a day. But before we get to that, there's something important we need to address first. The limiting beliefs that most people fall into. See, I'm a pretty young dude. So for me, this is the moment where most people choose the safe path. Most people put off work and chasing their dreams, thinking that there's always another day, until they wake up and wondered where all the time went. But not me. Right now, this channel barely makes money. There's no guarantee this will even work. But I'd rather risk failing than spending my whole life walking down a path I didn't choose. I guess in video game terms, you could say I'm starting a new level. One that's far more treacherous and dangerous compared to the lower levels I've faced so far. The problem with most people is that they treat their goals like easy levels. They expect instant wins and get discouraged the moment things don't work out. That's why most people never achieve their goals. Which is why this year, I'm not only trying to hit my goal of 100k subs, I'm also trying to fail as many times as I can. That might sound very contradicting, but hear me out. Just imagine for 1 second that whatever you choose to do, you couldn't fail. Whether that's a sports, business, or a project like YouTube. Imagine just trying, guaranteed you would win. Well, that's kind of how it works. Failing isn't actually a real thing. It's just an idea or a concept you have in your head. It's a made-up rule you created. Failing is simply what happens when your expectations of your efforts are not met in reality. See, as long as you're alive, you can always try again tomorrow. All failure is psychological until you die. In fact, failing is a good thing, because it increases the chances of you hitting your goals. Every time that you fail, you learn something new. You get closer to succeeding. It's kind of like in a game when you're fighting a boss. Every time that you try and fail, you learn something new about how the boss fights. And so every single time you adjust your approach to better counter the boss. Let me frame it like this. If you knew you could hit your goals after failing 30 times, how fast would you fail? That's why I want to fail as many times as I can, because pain is the greatest teacher. After all, it's the basic rule of almost any video game ever. The more pain you endure, or the more enemies you slay, then the more XP you get, and the stronger you become. So if failing is a good thing, then why can't people stay committed even when they're not winning? Because once they start, they realize how hard it is. They think that it just stays that hard forever, but it's not true. I'm telling you from experience. It's way easier to keep posting YouTube videos once I started earning a bit of money and actually had an audience watching. If you pursue anything for a long period of time, it does get easier, but not because the task itself has necessarily changed. It's more so the fact that you've become stronger. It's like the difference between the start and the end of a video game. The beginning is hard because you're literally just some guy with a stick, fighting off monsters. But once you get to the end of the game, you're this knight in shining armor. You have more resources at your disposal. You're no longer fighting the goblin with the stick. You're fighting the dragon with an army. If you want to be that knight leading the army, then you have to commit to your goals. When I say commit, I don't just mean make it your priority. I recently learned the other day that commit comes from a Latin word that means to cut off. When you commit to something, you cut off your other options. You're committed. It's like when you marry someone, you commit. You cut off the idea of having any other romantic partners for the rest of your life. And I think that's something greatly underappreciated. See, in almost any game, and really in any story ever, the big moment that shifts the protagonist's life and steers them into becoming who they're meant to become is when they commit. It's when they make an irreversible decision. You know, if I don't hit my goals this year, a lot of people will see this as a mistake, as proof that I should have just taken the safer path. But that's not how I see it. When you're committing to one option, you're not wasting the other opportunities. You're simply taking a gamble. Sometimes that gamble pays off, and other times it doesn't. The cool thing about building a skill is that, unlike gambling, it's not based on luck. You can change how likely you are to hit a goal. All it takes is some guts, the brains to get a little better every time, and then, of course, the commitment to continue. It reminds me of this one quote: "If nothing changes, then nothing changes." If you don't make a change in your life, you will always remain the same. It's like that one story from the Bell Jar book. During the novel, the protagonist is faced with a tree. On the tree are fruits, each of which represents a possible identity she could have, such as a mother, writer, and adventurer. All she needs to do is pick a fruit and live that life. And yet she can't decide. She knows that picking one fruit means the death of all of the others. And so in the end, instead of picking a fruit, she watches as they all wither away and die. She becomes nothing. And in the same sense, that's how most people live their lives. They don't actually commit to the thing they want, so they just end up playing the role of whatever job they drawn from the hat. Indecision costs time, so pick your fruit and commit. It honestly doesn't matter what fruit you pick. All that matters is that you pick the fruit you want. Once again, I'm going to ask you, just imagine for a second that you'll die at the end of the year if you don't hit your goals. What would you do? Necessity is the mother of invention. When your only option is to win or to die, you're able to thrive and innovate. You use the resources around you to win no matter what. At the end of the year, you'll either have 12 months of excuses or 12 months of results. Just remember, the choice is yours. So, now that the video is almost at the end, it's time for me to share my simple system for completely changing your life over the next year. It really is simple. All you need to do is set yourself one daily quest each day, one thing to do to move closer to your goal. Because if you just work for 1 hour a day, that adds up to 365 hours in a year. So many people underestimate how much progress you can make if you just sit down and work, even if it's just for 1 hour a day. I myself personally will be doing 4 hours a day, but I recommend setting a daily goal of whatever you feel comfortable with. Of course, you have to just work. If you get distracted by your phone or take a break every 5 minutes, then you won't see any change in your life. So, ask yourself what it is in your life you're committing to, and how much you're willing to cut off in order to achieve that dream you want. If you don't actually start working towards it over the next 365 days, then you will probably put it off for years, decades, or even the rest of your life. I'm actually doing a challenge right now where I try to upload 2 videos each week for the whole of January. And instead of pursuing my goals alone, I wanted to turn it into something bigger. Right now, I'm running a life gamification event where you damage the boss by making progress towards your goals. So, if you want to focus on making progress and meeting some like-minded people, then check out my free community. It's the first link in the description below. Keep your sword sharp. Bye bye.